There have been violent scenes across the United States in response to the death of a black man, George Floyd, in police custody. Protesters have broken an overnight curfew in Minneapolis after several nights of unrest. Violent protests have spread to at least 20 cities across America.
Happening right now, Salt Lake City PD Rescue is just arriving here on the scene, also with a unit from West Valley City. Now this is
forced.
Don't shoot!
Whenever that curfew was made yesterday at 8 p.m. And we're still locking. But this is proof. Tonight. Let's go.
I gotta find this.
Law enforcement tonight. Not taking any chances. Molly, you okay? Okay. All right. Press. Hey, it's okay.
Police brutality is legally defined as a civil rights violation where officers exercise undue or excessive force against a civilian. The chain of trust between police and our community is broken because of that. That becomes a problem when looking at the mission of America. Land of the free, they say, but how can we all be free if some of us can barely take a jog down the street? It then becomes an even bigger problem when we no longer know where we're supposed to go for protection, when we're lost on the idea of who's supposed to keep us safe. Yet it's not for all of us. It's just the African American community. Today, right now, there are about 329.45 million people in America, and us African Americans only fill up 13% of that population, yet we're forced to endure 24% of all police brutality. Because our skin color is different, we are 3 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than a white person. And it doesn't stop there. It doesn't just stop in the streets, it keeps going to our court systems, when these cops who kill in cold blood do not get convicted. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, out of the 1,147 civilians killed in 2017, only 13 of those cases got convictions, which is barely 1%. And because of these facts, you cannot believe that these protests you see on the news are just for the death of George Floyd. These protests are for Eric Garner, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Rodney King, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, and all other victims of police brutality who have not gotten the justice they deserve. But these riots cannot stand as our only solution, so what else can we do?
Do something. And I'll tell you why you say we hate white people. We don't hate anybody. We love our own people so much they think we hate the ones who are inflicting injustice against them. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. The controlled press, the white press, inflames the white public against Negroes. The police are able to use it to paint the Negro community as a criminal element. The police are able to use the press to make the white public think that 90% or 99% of the Negroes in the Negro community are criminals. And once the white public is convinced that most of the Negro community is a criminal element, then this automatically paves the way for the police to move into the Negro community, exercising Gestapo tactics, stopping any black man who is on the sidewalk, whether he is guilty or whether he is innocent, whether he is well-dressed or whether he is poorly dressed, whether he is educated or whether he is dumb, whether he's a Christian or whether he's a Muslim. As long as he is black and a member of the Negro community, the white public thinks that the white policeman is justified in going in there and trampling on that man's civil rights and on that man's human rights.
When thinking of solutions, I always first resort back to where the root of the problem comes from. For police officers, I strongly feel that the root is ultimately what goes down in training. Data reports that police spend more than 7 times as many hours learning how to shoot firearms and learning how to de-escalate a situation. That should immediately be changed so that de-escalation is practiced equally or more often, so officers do not feel the need to pull out a weapon as their first resort. The roots also lead back to what rules are in place at these departments. New rules have been put in place for certain departments that showcase a significant drop in the death of civilians, yet few departments have actually adopted them. Rules that prove solutions, like requiring officers to use all other means before shooting, requiring all use of force to be reported, banning chokeholds and strangleholds, duty to intervene if another officer uses excessive force, and even more, that not only would prevent killings but also serve justice. Although these rules may seem like common sense to people on the outside, some of these police officers are never taught, and that's one of the biggest problems. One solution I think would do the job best, as well as teaching these police officers, is to defund the police system. For a system that has torn down the trust between police and civilians, we have been giving tons of funding to that same system. To change the way they treat civilians, African Americans specifically, we have to change the financial power they are given to wake them up and actually get them to listen. Another solution would definitely be creating an outside committee focused just on police brutality. When a problem is brought up about police brutality, it's investigated. Not just by the police officers, but a committee who will stand behind the victim's family and making sure a trial is done right and that the justice received is fair.
What you see right now is gonna happen 10 years from now. And at 26, you're gonna be doing the same thing I'm doing. You understand that? 10 years. You're gonna be right here too.
But he also got to
So what I need y'all to do right now at 16 is come up with a better way. You understand me? Putting yourself in harm's way is not the way.
No, it's not.
Y'all come up with a better way. Cause we ain't doing it.
Oh my God.
And I have a 5-year-old son.
Oh my God.
And it ain't happening.
We have to do better overall, so that our children and the future generations will not have to live through the same horror.